All right. You just make sure we are good on both sides. We are. Well, good evening. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Motivation and Conversation. We're back again for another episode, and I'm not solo tonight. I was solo last week. I'm not solo tonight. So I have a new guest. This is the second guest of the year. Mr. Jamal had kind of monopolized the platform for the first 2 months of the year. So we have a new guest with us on tonight, Mrs. Earth-Shameenah Holman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to
Hello.
Motivation and Conversation. So
Thank
glad to
you.
have you on tonight. Yes, yes, yes. So
Yeah.
here again, Miss Shamina is, of course, a client of mine, and so we're going to jump into it in just a minute. But first of all, I want to give you guys a chance to get on and get settled. Let me get over here to the room so that I can be live with you guys and make sure if there are any questions that we have in the chat or any um, that we can definitely chime in and make sure that we answer any questions that may come up. Um, so as you're coming in, definitely make sure that you share this link with someone else that may need to hear this information on tonight. So here again, Shamina is the new author of this first release project, Unearth, Uncovering and Rediscovering. And so
Thank
we are
you.
excited about this. So this is released in 2024. So we're excited about this new project. And I wanted to have her on tonight to talk about, of course, the title of our podcast on tonight is Triumph, Trauma to Triumph. And so, of course, this book has a lot of good information. Um, it has a lot of triumph in it, but it also has trauma in it. And so, first question of the night. First question of the night. So, why on earth? Why now? Why this story? Talk to us.
So, oh gosh, thank you for having me here. This book it was really personal for me. It was a personal journey, rooted in a lot of life experiences at such a young age, right? I faced
Mm-hmm.
significant challenges in childhood, so overcoming childhood trauma,
Mm-hmm.
navigating a strained relationship with my mother, teen pregnancy, divorce, mental health issues, right? So it was twofold. I wanted to recognize the fact that there was a transformative power in my resilience in my own
Mm-hmm.
life, right?
Yeah.
Despite any adversity that I have faced, I found a way to not only survive it, but thrive and, emerge successful. So a lot of looking back and therapy, commitment to my own well-being, I decided that I wanted to tell my story. I wanted to be a source of strength for myself and other people, right? I found a strength
Yeah.
inside of me that I didn't even know was there until I started telling other people my story. And then that freed me. So then that
Yeah.
led to my other reason for writing the book is that there's so many people suffering in silence,
Yes.
and I just wanted to be that beacon of light, to just share and show them that there's other people that have been through it, that they're not alone, just write something that would resonate with them, to hopefully be able to tell their story, right? I wanted my
Yeah.
narrative to serve as a source of inspiration and connection for them.
Wow. Wow. You said a whole lot in just telling us some of the things and why you wrote it. So, childhood trauma, you said mental health issues, you said teen pregnancy,
Yeah.
you mentioned divorce, and all of this happened between what ages?
Oh, childhood trauma started at age 10.
Wow.
Um, when I say lack of mother-daughter relationship, I've known my grandmother to be my mother from birth. I mean, I've known my mother, but there was no real mother-daughter connection. So
Mm,
all of my baby pictures are with my grandmother. So
yeah.
my whole life with that, and then teen pregnancy, and then I was divorced by age 35.
Wow. 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 So 10 to 35, that's a wide range, and that's a lot of things to have gone on during this time span. To your point, a lot of people suffer in silence. They suffer in silence and they never tell anybody, and it eats away at them. And I heard you say, beginning to tell your story is what freed you. And for our audience tonight, for those of you who are tapped in here again, welcome to Motivation and Conversation. My guest tonight is Earth-Shameenah Holman, and we're talking about her new project that she's just recently released called Unearth, Uncovering and Rediscovering. And she was just sharing with us how, you know, um, she was led to write this project and all of the things. So we're talking about the childhood trauma. We're talking about teen pregnancy, divorce, mental health issues. All of these things happen between the ages of 10 and 35. And, having to balance those things, maintain life, um, the mother-daughter relationship or the lack thereof, from what you have stated, all of these things were
Yeah.
factors, and you had to learn how to balance these things. So, mentioning, we've talked about relationships on this platform pretty much all year, all types of relationship, romantic relationships, family relationships, mother daughter, sibling relationships, all of it.
Right.
And so talk to us a little bit about that mother daughter relationship and how that impacted you, um in whatever way, and how did it have an impact on these various things that you dealt with, or how do you feel it had an impact?
So in childhood, I didn't really think anything of it. I just felt, I'm always with my grandmother, and this was the
Mm-hmm.
woman that was there for me. I knew like I said, I knew I had a mom. I lived with her, but every waking moment, I think I was always like, pulling to go back with my grandmother. I didn't really realize until my teen years that there was just a disconnect between my own mother and I. There was no conversations, the conversations that we like to have with our daughters. I have daughters now myself, but conversations on what to expect, when you start getting your menses, there was none of
Mm-hmm.
that. What to expect in life, when I walked out the door, what was I going to face? There was none of that. I felt that I started to resent her a little bit. I
Mm-hmm.
started to
Mm-hmm.
resent her.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I did, again, my grandmother, I would call my grandmother for everything. And then I noticed that she had a little bit of resentment towards me, my own mom, because she would say, "You like
Mm-hmm.
your grandmother better than me."
Mm-hmm.
Um, we never could really have a conversation. There was no love, there was no hugs, there was no, telling me I love you, or
Mm-hmm.
how was your day, or me even asking her that. There was just no connection. And the way it impacted me was that when I grew up and had my own children, which wasn't very long, right? I had my first son at 15.
Mm-hmm.
I started to want to give them everything that I didn't have.
Yeah.
I always call it overcompensation. I started
Compensated. Mm-hmm.
overcompensating,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be there. I want to
Mm-hmm.
do the first things for him. I want to make sure he knows that I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or all of my children now, making sure that they know that I'm available, talking to them constantly, just making sure I'm telling them that I love them. And you're supposed to do those things, but I think I did it to the point where it caused stress on me.
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah. And you said something that, disconnect, you know, oftentimes, and this can happen, in situations where mothers are in the home, children is in the home, but there's a disconnect. And this is a conversation I think that we have to continue to have, and that's how to learn how to communicate with one another.
Oh yeah.
And in the event that we can't find a way, we need to get someone to help us to find a way to communicate. Because it sounds like if there had just been some type of communication, there may have been an opportunity for a relationship to have been developed had there
Right.
been some type of communication. Um, and it's unfortunate in those kinds of situations because you're yearning as a child, you don't know. And as a child, you're looking for an adult to lead the way, right? To show
Mhm.
you, to tell you, to teach you, and to give you these things. And so when you are left at a deficit in this regard, it impacts you in a lot of different ways, and oftentimes in ways that you don't often realize. um,
Absolutely.
so, what about, did you ever get to a point with your mother that there was a relationship established at some point, or did it continue to be this disconnect throughout, your teen years into adulthood, especially when you had the baby at 15. You mentioned you were a teen mom at 15. So what was the relationship like at this point in time?
So going back to 15, there was still a disconnect there. My mother was the first one that I told that I was pregnant, right? I actually
Hmm.
took her to the clinic with me because they called me about it. Um, and there was no connection. There was no emotion even showed that my daughter is 14 and pregnant, right?
Hmm.
Um, no conversation again. So again, going back to my grandmother and just letting her be that source of comfort for me and resource. Um, and then the disconnect continues all the way into my adult years, right? Even now, there's still a disconnect there. However, I think I've learned to just meet her where she is.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
to really appreciate what she had been through and just
Hmm.
realize that the things that she's been through may have caused this disconnect that she has with her own children.
Hmm.
And that I couldn't hold on to that because then it's preventing me from growing and elevating with my own, not my own children, but I think about who's experiencing me, who's experiencing
Hmm.
that affected side of me. Um, so just loving her where she is,
Hmm.
and that just came,
Yeah.
within the last
Yeah.
maybe 5 years.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. So, if you had advice for your 14-year-old self at this point, what would it have been?
Ooh, it would, oh gosh. I think at 14, you have expectations, but you don't know that you have these expectations. You just think that's how life is supposed to be.
Hmm.
But that you're gonna get through it and to just hold on to what God gave you,
Hmm.
right? He gave me the
Hmm.
resource of my grandmother,
Yeah.
right? He knew I
Yeah.
was gonna need her.
Hmm.
And I didn't know what it was. I just knew this was grandma and this is who was there for me, but I didn't
Yeah.
know the significance of it.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't have fought so hard against
Hmm.
what was happening if I knew
Hmm.
that, what
Yeah.
I know now.
So if you find yourself in a position of trauma, if you find yourself in a position of life, facing life at a juncture that you weren't really ready to face life at that point, don't run away from it, but run to the person that is there to help you through it. Because,
Yes.
oftentimes, when we don't know what to do, especially at that age, we have a tendency to run. We have a tendency to hide. We have a
Oh,
tendency
yeah.
to do things because we don't know what to do. And I think it's so important, to have persons like yourself who are willing to be vulnerable, to tell your story, and to be able to talk to teens and to talk to even moms who may have teens at this point that are experiencing the shift in relationships. Because once they come out of, being a girl and into adolescence and into teenage, and they begin to develop into women, there are a lot of things we have to consider as parents, right?
Right.
If you don't have that relationship and that communication, now's a good time to develop that. Now's a good time to talk to her about what she feels, where she is, what she desires, what's going on with her as a young lady, so that you can begin that relationship to deepen it. And not only that, but just to connect with her so that there isn't a disconnect.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
One of the other things that you talk about in the book, and I'm kind of skipping around, but one of the chapters is looking for love in all the wrong places. And so I don't want to assume, but I would like for you to just kind of talk to our audience tonight a little bit about how you ended up having this perspective as a result of the things that occurred and what you felt had you on this path of looking for love in the wrong places.
I didn't know it then, but
Yeah, yeah.
having undergone, when I say childhood trauma,
Mm-hmm.
I experienced molestation from my own father, you know, starting at the age of 10.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, there was this longing of just wanting to be with my father. I had a
Mm-hmm.
stepfather who was in my life from age of 5, but it's like I knew that that wasn't my father. And my grandmother was such a strong presence that this is my grandmother's son. So it was like, well, if I can just get to
Yeah.
him, it's got to
Mhm.
be great,
Mhm.
right? And that's my father.
Mhm.
So when I moved in with him and that started happening, the molestation started, I didn't even know what was happening. I thought this was just regular. I was taught that it was normal, that not even taught that it was normal. That wasn't even a word. It was just happening.
Mhm.
But I had lived a pretty isolated life prior to
Mhm.
that. Well, then coming out of that and then moving back to New York with my family, um, I started going on this road because I didn't have my dad in my life again, right? So I didn't know that at
Mhm.
the time. But then it was, this boy likes me. And so I'm going to go over here with him. And then,
Mhm.
this boy likes me. Okay, well, maybe, he's telling me all the right
Mhm.
things.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, Ended up pregnant at 15, 14, and had my son at 15. Um, and then those didn't work. I was 15. Relationships don't last at 15 usually.
Right. Mhm.
Um, and then having my children, and then another man comes along and he's telling you everything, and you have this need or this desire for family,
Yeah.
right? So I started
Yeah.
desiring a family structure because I have children, right? That's what the dream is, to have a family. So now
Mhm.
you have another man who comes along and he's like, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to show you this, and I'm open because I don't have
Mhm.
love.
Right.
Again, I never
Right.
heard my mother tell me she loved me.
Mhm.
Um, my father, I realized at the age of 13 or 14 that what he had been doing was wrong. So
Mhm.
it's like, well, now he doesn't love me either, right?
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
need something. I need some kind of security.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when these men are coming telling me that they can do this for me and that they're taking care of me and they're showing me love, then that's what I started going after or
And
embracing.
so, yeah, and so we have the thing of love, and then we have the thing of attention. And so
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like, you desiring the love, but the attention was that you would accept that because you hadn't even been getting that and the acceptance, right? And so even if it's not real love, it's the acceptance, it's the attention, it's somebody is, taking the time to value my time or just notice that I'm here, that I exist. And so oftentimes it gets us into this, to your point, it gets us into this place of other things because it's something that we've longed for. And because we're not taught, what is and what's not, then anything closely remote to that is what we accept.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And that's what I always said that my father was supposed to be that first person that loved me and showed me
Hmm.
that love, right? And if I
Absolutely.
had that,
Absolutely.
maybe I wouldn't have gone out and accepted that. I look at other families or even, my daughters, like their dad is supposed to tell them like they love him. I mean,
Yeah.
he loves them. They already
Right.
have
Right.
that, that affirmation, right? So I look back and I wonder if that's what I was looking for, affirmation.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, absolutely. There's so many good nuggets in here, and it's a tearjerker, it's emotional, it's deep, it's vulnerable. So you're gonna have to get the book in order to find out all of the intricate um vulnerability that Shamina shares in the project Unearth,
Thank you.
Uncovering and Rediscovering. So you're gonna have to get it, and so we'll talk about how they do that in a minute. But I want to kind of move to this piece because I want you to talk about, and we've touched on some of the trauma, but talk to us about how you ended up getting out. So the divorce was one of the last things that you experienced. So you've come through the divorce. And so talk to us about how you kind of came out of that and where you are now, because we've gotten through the trauma. There was a lot to, behold. It was a lot to deal with. There's a lot to carry as a child, as a teenager. But now you're at this place that you are in this place of healing, because in order to be able to write what you've written, you have to be in a place of healing. And so, getting to this healing journey, what happened as you were able to come out of all of those various levels of trauma from the childhood um, trauma, molestation to the divorce, and now you're in a different place? Talk to us about this phase.
So the divorce happened, after many years of accepting, emotional abuse and
Mhm.
infidelity and things like that. Again, because I wanted to keep a family unit that I just wanted so bad.
Mhm.
Um, it happened when I decided that I needed to, one, know God for myself. Like I've
Yeah.
been in church my
Mhm.
whole life, been in church
Mhm.
my whole life.
Yeah.
And I knew of what God was, who God was by what people told me. And
Mhm.
I just went on this quest that I need to read this Bible. I need to, get in courses that's going to teach me about,
Mhm.
the Bible. And I started
Mhm.
looking for people that would teach the Bible in a way that I can understand, I can relate to. Once I did that and I was back and forth through therapy, I just decided like I'm 35 years old, 34, I think I was. And I said, I need to do something for myself.
Mhm.
For all these years, I've been doing something for everybody else. And I realized that I was just like being stripped apart. I didn't know who I was when I came out of that divorce. I mean, when I went into divorce, right? I didn't know who I was. Um,
Mhm.
and I just decided that I needed to do something for myself. I just buckled down, started praying more, getting
Mhm.
connected, getting involved in church, reading my Bible for myself, going through therapy. Therapy was very, very big for me.
Yeah.
And then coming out of that, oh Jesus,
Yeah.
coming out of that, it's very heavy. I had been with someone for my 20 when since I was 20 years old, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
trying to find myself again. Who was
Yeah.
I?
Yeah.
I had no idea. It
Yeah.
was like, do I like eggs? Do I
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
eggs? It
Yeah.
was that
Yeah.
deep. Do I like
Yeah.
eggs because
Yeah.
they like eggs, or do I like eggs because
Right.
I like eggs? So
Right.
just trying to
Right.
find even the deepest part of who I was. So I
Yeah.
had to just start peeling back all the layers.
Mhm.
And then I found people, they were drawn to me, and wanted to know, like, oh gosh, you guys were this and that. And I'm like, how did I put on that facade? I don't feel that
Mhm.
what people are
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
So I had to start telling my story. And as I started talking, I was like, oh gosh, like this is so good.
Mhm.
It's freeing me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I just had to really dig deep and do work for myself.
Yeah.
My mind, my heart, my body, just started just taking care of myself, losing weight. It was just a lot
Mhm.
that needed to be shed.
Yeah. So I heard what helped you to get out of it was the word and the work.
The word and the
So
work.
the word and the work, so the word and the work, it goes together, right? So there is the word, but then we have to work the word, but then we also have to do the work ourselves. I heard therapy, I heard, losing weight, I heard getting in touch with your inner self and learning who you were, learning to value who you were, learning to love yourself, right? So there's a lot of work that had to take
Yes,
place in addition to the word. So the word and the work went together. But if you do the both of them, then you can come out, you can heal, and you can
yes,
move forward because there's life after all of these things. There's
right.
life
Yes,
after
yes,
divorce, there's life after trauma. But if you allow the word of God and to infiltrate your spirit, your heart, your mind, and your soul, and then you do the work that the word gives us, the instructions, then healing can happen. um,
yes,
I want to thanks to all of you who are joining us tonight. Definitely share this link with someone that you know that this will help and be beneficial to them and to encourage them to come out of their situation, whomever they may be. So definitely thank you so much. And I want to ask you if you have any questions for Shamina, definitely put those in the chat or any
yes,
comments or
please.
encouragement or anything, but definitely put your questions in the chat and we'll come back to those. We'll give you a chance to put those in and we'll come back to those in just a minute. So you came out of this situation, and so now where is Shamina? Where's life? Where you are? Are you happy with life? Are you still in the same city? What are you doing now, career wise? So what happened? So you took
Ooh.
off and just like I got this thing. God freed me. I'm healed. Okay, I'm doing this, that, and the third.
Oh gosh, I wish it was just let me go. I'm healed. Healing is gonna be, I think I'm gonna be healing forever. It's always
Yes,
levels,
yes,
right?
yes.
It's levels, new
Absolutely.
levels.
Absolutely.
Um, but I am at the best place that I've ever been in my entire life. And I can
Wonderful.
just, I freely say that. It's so crazy. I was with my son about a week ago, and he said, "Mom, you are just so healthy." He was like, "I think you're doing all this,
Wow.
like you're just so healthy." And I just to hear, he's 24 now, so I was 15 when I had him. But just to hear him say that, it was like, so I wasn't
Yes.
healthy when I was 15. I wasn't healthy when I was 20. But he just said, I just see like you're just so healthy. You're doing so much, more now. You're taking care of yourself and the way you show up for people. And I was like, oh, like so that just tells me like the work is there, it's
Yeah.
showing, the
Yeah.
fruit is
Yeah.
showing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but when I came out of this, I was just finishing my master's program. So I was going through all that. I've been in school my whole life, but I had completed actually my master's program after divorce. I am a nurse practitioner now, family practice.
Wow.
I've been doing that for about 4 additional years here.
Okay.
Um, I moved, so I am in a new state now. I'm in Texas now. My whole family is on the East Coast, but I decided I wanted to venture off and do something different.
Okay. Okay.
And we are loving it where we're at. I am a coach now to women, young women, teens. I started my own coaching organization, wrote my first book.
Yes.
Yeah, 60 pounds lighter.
Come on. Come on.
Thank
And
you. So yeah, things are just so good. I just feel great. And, just how like my son said, how I show up. I've said that, but
yeah.
it's never escaped my lips to him. So for him to say
Yeah.
that, it just means so
Yes.
much. It means that
Yes.
it's working.
Yes. So, that's why I said from trauma to triumph, for to go through all of that, and you're now a nurse practitioner. Not just a nurse, but a nurse practitioner. Yeah, I don't know if
Yes.
in chat, do y'all understand what that means? She's a nurse practitioner. What an amazing accomplishment
Thank you.
to have persevered and through all of that, and having, your first child at 15, and getting married and having additional children, and continuing to persevere through master's programs, and to go on to have such an accomplishment is such a great, great, great um,
Thank you.
statement of triumph. I mean, just absolutely amazing. Um, and one of the things that I think we fail to realize sometimes, we go through things and we allow the trauma to take us so far in until we just sit in it, and we don't think we can come out of it. And the whole point of the enemy's job is to try to deter us from this level of triumph. If I can do this, then I can keep her from being a nurse practitioner. If I can do this, I can keep her from being an amazing mother. If I can do this, I can keep her from telling this story,
Oh, yeah.
and so all of these things are, it's distractions. And so when we see these negative
Mm.
things as distractions and trying to keep us, I know for me, when something happens crazy like that, or anything negative in my life, I'm like, I gotta beat it, because that's not me. That's not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hearing you say really the same thing. That's not who I am, and that's not who I was. And when I discovered what was right and what was wrong, I took on the challenge of saying, let me find out how I need to remedy this thing for myself, to get myself out. And I go back to the word and the work. You did the word and you did the work.
Yes.
And I think that's an amazing, amazing thing. So yes, absolutely. This is so awesome. Yep, yep, helping us to get free. And so here again, share this link with any woman, young woman, teenager, anybody. I mean, text it to them, email it to them, because they need to hear this. There are so many things that you went through, but you have overcome and you have triumphed. Are you
Thank you.
still healing?
God.
Absolutely. And that's an ongoing process, but I commend you and super kudos to you for staying the course, and
Thank
for
you.
realizing that there's greater in me than he that is in the world, right? And so and that's Jesus Christ. And so you took that word and you did that work, and you put those things together, and you created something totally different for yourself and for your life and for your children. So
Yes.
I've asked all my questions, so I want to give you the opportunity to talk to the people, share anything you want to share, and any, that I haven't asked, that you just want to, maybe about this project, that you want people to know, that you want them to understand about it. Um, get the floor.
Okay. Um, so, like Bridget said, that we the project was done again because I wanted to show that we don't get stuck. We don't have to be stuck where we are, right?
Hmm.
That we can overcome, that you can overcome what you've been through. A lot of times we go through things, not just for ourselves. I used to always wonder, why did I go through this? Why did this happen to me? And then I realized as I got older that it didn't just happen to me, right? But it happened
Hmm.
for me. And it
Hmm.
happened so that way I can be a blessing to someone else that can't even talk about it today.
Yeah.
Um, and then where my mindset is now is that who gets to experience me, right?
Hmm.
Who's experiencing not just me, here in the physical, but everything that I've been through. How are they experiencing me? How am I showing up in the world, right? Are
Yeah.
those things
Hmm.
that happen to me affecting me, impacting how I speak to people, how I show up for them, how I behave,
Hmm.
how I care. So I think about that as well. My favorite scripture, and I think that's what held me up for those whole 5 years, these last 5 years, is Romans 8:28.
Yeah.
We know that all things work
Everything work
together for the
together.
good of
Hmm.
those who love the Lord and who are called according to his
According to
name,
his
right?
purpose.
So
Yes. Yes.
his purpose.
Yes.
So um I feel like everything has worked together. My sons
Hmm.
are older now. I
Yeah.
had both of them as a teen. I was a teen mom twice. And then my daughters are here. We went through devastating times after that divorce. They lived with their dad for a long time, but it was devastating. But
Yeah.
now we're on the other side of it, and they're
Yeah.
happier than they've ever been. And they're like, Mom,
Yes.
we never thought
Wonderful.
that we can get here. So,
Yeah.
all things truly do work together for your good. It's
Yeah.
not just
Yeah.
for you, it's for other people. So tell your story, start to talk about it, know that you're not alone. And we can be a resource for other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have a question, and anybody else get that question ready and place it in the chat. And then just let you know this, for those of you that are live with us, your questions, your comments, none of those are visible to the public once we are off this live platform. So you don't have to worry about your question being visible to the public, because it's not. So it's only visible inside of this chat. So if you want to ask a question, and I encourage you, if there's a question you want to ask, definitely feel free to do that. The question is it difficult to speak on people and relationships that you still have, for example, your mother?
It is not difficult for me to speak on it now,
Mm-hmm.
because I have forgiven her,
Mm-hmm.
and we've had conversation about it, so she knows how I feel. I know how she feels. And again, I've been able to just kind of let it go and say, I accept her where she is. I'm going to love her where
Mm-hmm.
she is. And I have to
Mm-hmm.
let that expectation or that fantasy of what I desired in a mother
Mm-hmm.
go, and just accept where we are right now.
Yeah.
So it's it can be emotional, right? It can bring back, some
Yeah.
feeling, but it's
Yeah.
it's easier for me to talk about.
Yeah. Good. 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 All right. Any other questions? I'm going to ask you all, I'm going to give you all a little bit more time if you want to get that question together. But these are the things, and we all have at different points in times, I think, have some type of friction or mother-daughter relationships that, me with my daughter, we've had our times where there wasn't as much communication. Now we're in a really, really good place. There were some
Mhm.
things I had to do. There were some things she had to do. Um, but me being the mother, I had to initiate that, and I had to be big enough to say, in certain cases, I may not have handled that the best way, or I was wrong, or I apologize. And we got to be okay
Yes.
with that, and not just say, I'm the parent and what I say go, you don't do what I do, you do what I say do. All of this out the window, because you have to learn how to communicate. And with so many, that was okay when there was not as much exposure,
Oh,
and in this
yes.
day and time, there's so much exposure. And so there's so much that our children are exposed to at such an early age, that we have to harness that thing of communication. And we have to do that very, very, very early.
Oh
And
yeah.
we have to be very authentic with it, and we have to be very honest. We have to be very vulnerable, because if we're not, we can miss the boat with it. And so I think it's an important area, and it's a relationship that we definitely have to be very cognizant of, and how we manage it and how we handle it. Okay. Well, if y'all don't have any more questions, tell us how we can get the book. Tell us where we can get it, how to contact you. Do you do speaking engagements? All the things that are going on. What do you have coming up? Tell us about everything that's happened. Just tell us all of it.
Yes, so you can find the book on my website at www.herearthtones.com. So that's HER Earth, EARTHTONES.com. It's also available on Amazon. My website is it's up and running. It's up and running. You can see everything that I have going on. So this weekend, I have my virtual book launch. It's going to be on Saturday, the 16th at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll be talking more about Unearthed, and I'm going to be giving away a basket. It's a faith basket full of goodies, journals, things like that. So
Okay.
you have to be present to attend. You must RSVP. You have to be present to win, but you must RSVP so that way you can be entered into the drawing. Um,
Okay.
I can be found on Instagram at Meena, MEENAH_NP, and then Shameenah Holman on Facebook.
All
What else
right.
I
All
have going
right.
on? Oh, we're going to be in Dallas on the 26th or 27th of April as well. We're going to do a
Okay.
mother-daughter brunch there,
Okay.
and we're going to talk about mother-daughter relationships, the importance,
Awesome.
giving away
Yes.
some goodies there too, teaming up
Awesome.
with
Awesome.
Chosen.
Awesome, awesome. They coming in a little slow, but they coming. Question: after writing this book, how do you feel mentally? Do you feel another, I'm assuming, level of relief?
I do. I do now. When I wrote the book, it was very taxing on my emotions to write. I felt like I was healing. I was healed enough to write it. And as I started writing, I was like, okay, am I healed? I started questioning myself the whole way
Mm-hmm.
through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, when I released it, I realized that there were very strong words in there, um, strong topics, especially for family members to read, because a lot of my
Mm-hmm.
family do not know what I've been through. And
Wow.
I was thinking, oh, when they read this, it's going
Yeah.
to open up a bunch of things. But I had to go with what God told me to do. And He gave me the permission to write that story. So I do feel more free. It's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's bigger than me. So I'm
Yeah.
not worried right now of how I look when it comes
Yeah.
out. I'm worried
Yeah.
about who it's going to touch and let them know that it's okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. 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 Any other questions? Any other questions? Get them in the chat if you have other questions.
Yes.
I want to say that, Shamina was an amazing client. It was awesome to work with you. And I know there were times where got a little rough, right? It got a
Thank
little
you.
rough. And here again, just, even coaching you through that. And, I could feel the heaviness, the weight. And
Yes.
one of the things that, I'm grateful for is that I've gone through some things, and I went through those things for the time for which I'm now in, and for the people that God has placed in my path to serve, and to coach, and to help go to the next level, or to bring whatever they're doing to manifestation. And so there's so many things that, I encounter, and as a coach and a consultant, and things that I see. And I really felt the weight, that you were experiencing. That's why I say to writers all the time, especially when you're writing something really, really, really emotional, take that very slow. Don't try to rush that process. Not that you have to try to sit in it and feel it again, but don't rush yourself through, because there may be something that you will fail to write that you need to write, but because of the emotions, you don't write it, and you write the wrong thing because you are in the emotions. So allow yourself to digress, feel what you're feeling, and then go back to it and continue the process. because what we go through is real, it's life, and it is what it is.
Yes.
And when you get to a place that you can begin to talk about it and write about it, um, I had this experience with my biological father. So my stepfather, that was my dad. That was my heart, and so he's now deceased. But I've always had this longing for this relationship, or I had this longing for this relationship with my biological father. And it wasn't until I got to a point that I was really ready, to confront it. So for so many years, I just kind of suppressed it because I had somebody, that had that role for me. But I knew I needed to deal with it because the feelings were strong and it affected my trust of men.
Yes. Yes.
And so I didn't realize all of that. And so there's so many things you don't realize until you get to certain places in your life, you know. And when I got to this place, I was married at the time, and I told my husband at that time, my ex-husband, that I had this issue. And I said, and he knew that, I had my stepfather and it was a wonderful relationship and all of that. But because that was a void. And
Oh, yes.
so, it was a void and I needed to either fill it or I needed to understand it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this case, I
That
needed
part.
to understand the void and why it was there was just so disconnected and just so nonchalant about the fact that I existed. And not only me, but I had other siblings
Right.
on my dad's side. And it was the same pretty much with I'm just like, how do you do that? And so what
Mm.
I learned in that when I took the opportunity to have a conversation, I was good and grown, grown children and everything. I was 44, 42, 44 years old. And when I sat down and had that conversation, I understood clearly that the capacity wasn't there. And so at that point, I understood that this was God's doing because he used him to be my father to get me here, right? Because the seed had to be a part of the process. You got to have both the seed and the egg. So
Yes.
those two had to be together to get me here. And then he gave me all of his creativity, right? Um,
Ooh.
part of his his looks, part of him is in me, and the gifts that God had given him he gave to me. And how I use those gifts are different than how he used those gifts. And
Oh
so it
gosh.
wasn't until that time that I clearly understood this is a God thing. This is a God thing. And it's so oftentimes we will misconstrue and we'll get in our feelings about things because we're human. But when we
Mhm.
really take the time to understand the word and the work, and the
Yes.
fact that God had so orchestrated. I was raised by my great grandmother, my great grandmother, I'm sorry, great grandmother, not grandmother, but my great grandmother, and not necessarily by force, but by choice based on the situation that my mother had, because my mother was a teen mother. She had me at 16. And so here again, I'm just grateful that you are at this place that you can tell the story. And so of course, that's a story I haven't written yet. I've written a partial piece of it that talks about my biological father. But it's so freeing, and it helps you to really understand who God is and the fact that He had you on His mind, even in that
Ooh.
situation. Even if the situation wasn't good, God had you on His mind,
Yes, he did.
and He had a
Yep.
purpose and a plan for your life. And so it's an amazing thing to get to a place where you can really share the fact that I came through and now I'm out. I was in, but I came through and I'm out, and it didn't happen to me, but it happened for me.
For me.
And so what an amazing story, an amazing opportunity. I just know a lot of young women are going to be blessed, not only young women but women in
Women.
general,
Thank you. Thank you.
because we have to continue to persevere. And I'm so glad you persevered, you stayed the course, you stayed with it, and now you're an accomplished young
Thank
woman,
you.
a nurse practitioner,
Thank
degreed,
you.
educated. And so, yes,
Thank you.
definitely from
Thank you so
trauma
much.
to triumph. What an amazing story. Thank you so
Thank you so
much for
much.
being with us tonight and sharing a part of your story. Like I told you, y'all got to get the project.
Yes.
You got
Thank
to get the
you. Thank you for
project.
working with me.
Yes, yes,
It was
yes,
so
yes,
good. Amazing
yes,
experience. Y'all got to
yes,
work. Y'all got
yes,
to contact Miss Bridget, Coach Bridget. Contact her. She was
yes.
amazing to work with. I just thank you. Thank you so much.
Amazing project. Go to get it at her website, her earth tones with an s.com. and pick up this project. And even if you don't feel like you need it, I think it'll be encouraging and inspiring to you as a woman, even for the men that are on. Bless
Oh, yeah.
somebody with it. And when we understand the story of others, we appreciate certain things a whole lot better. So get it for your daughter. If you have a daughter, get it for your daughter and have your daughter read it. Because what we don't know, we just don't know. And so it helps us to really get to that next place. And, you know, the word says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the words of our
Mhm.
testimony. And
Yes.
so, yes, absolutely, we overcome. And so, here again, kudos to you. Just want to thank you here again for being vulnerable. I know
Thank you.
there were a couple of little moments there, and that's gonna happen, and it's okay. But you're gonna be good. You're gonna be good,
Thank
girl.
you.
You're gonna be good. But thank you so much again.
Thank you for
Here
having me.
again, you can tell them again how they can connect with you. If you want her to speak, if you want her to um, be a part of anything that you have going on, or tell them how they can reach you and how they can get the book again.
Yes, you can email me also at info@herearthtones.com. Again, the website is www.herearthtones.com. You can contact me on social media at Shameenah Holman, so Shameenah Holman, Holman. Yes, and I am available for speaking engagements, coaching, even just to come by and share. So contact me.
All right.
Look
Awesome,
forward to
awesome,
it.
awesome. Well, thank you again for being with us for Motivation and Conversation, Tuesday Motivation and Conversation. I'll be back this Friday night for a relationship conversations Friday night chat. But I want to remind you that we have the Pen to Paper Tour that's coming up starting in Atlanta, Georgia, April 27th. And
Yes.
then we'll be on to Hampton Roads, Virginia. So go online to bridgetmoody.com/tour and get your ticket for any city that's near you. All right. Make
Can't
sure you
wait.
get your ticket. It's going to be an amazing workshop. And it's these kinds of opportunities, purpose and calling and vision. These kinds of things are birthed on the road when we do the tour of pen to paper. And so just helping people to connect with those visions, come into agreement with them and step into them and know they don't have to do it by themselves. So go to the website, check that out. If you see the press release out there, whatever it is, will you share it? Whatever you need to do, let people know about it, and make sure you share this link. Share it on your page. Let people know about it. It's an amazing, amazing story that I think everybody needs to hear. So I want you to share it with as many people. Share it with your audiences and on your other platforms. All right.
Thank you.
But thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you for being with us
Thank
tonight.
you
And
for
until
having
the
me.
next time, this is Tuesday, Motivation and Conversation. We'll be back next Tuesday night. All right. See you next time.